Dynaphones connected. Initiating broadcast signal in
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd Old Order, this is the Nerd Old Order broadcast. I am the man that you call Dukes, and to my right, it's all about the...
Booyah, what's up? It's your boy Joe, baby.
And to my other right, weighing in at 178 adamantium-filled pounds, coming straight out of Krakoa, Alfonso X-Man Flores.
Stop, or my mom will shoot.
And
You
so
don't remember
with
that movie, huh, Dukes?
No, I do. With that, Estelle Getty.
Okay.
Estelle Getty. Oh, dude,
Yeah.
bro, I haven't
Rest in
even
peace.
told everybody what we're talking about today, and Joe's already doubting my Sylvester Stallone movie catalog trivia. So yeah, ladies, gentlemen, and knights, if you haven't noticed by Alfonso's obscure reference to a movie that maybe 5 people watched, Joe was one of them, we are going to be discussing the top movies of Sylvester Stallone. So strap in your seats and get ready for a nice road down memory lane. Overall, when Sylvester Stallone was at his height, what do you guys think of him, Alfonso?
Yeah, man. For me, I mean, Slice Alone. I mean, he was everywhere. You know, he was where it was at. You know, any movie that he made was going to be a box office killer. You know, he was one of those larger than life characters that they had in the 80s, action star all the way. You know, the different thing was, you know, he always had like a little slow kind of dumb talk about him, but he always had very insightful things to say. You know, so Slice Alone. I mean, man, couldn't go wrong with his movies. You know, anytime they were in theater, I was there.
I was never really a Sylvester Stallone fan because I'm one of those people who's like, you either have to choose this or this. I'm like a Coke or Pepsi guy, like, So for me, I was an Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, so I really didn't get into Sylvester Stallone movies. But I want to say that the far and few in between, I caught up with Sylvester Stallone on VHS and DVD and Blu-ray and everything like that. That's when I got into Sylvester Stallone. So I wasn't much of a fan, but I've come around. What about you, Joe?
I've always been a fan. I think it's dope because, you know, before Von Damme and Steven Seagal, there was Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I like them both. To me, depends on my mood. Some days I feel like drinking Coke, and some days I feel like drinking Pepsi. You know what I'm saying? It's just two different flavors. Whatever my mood is in the mood for. You know what I'm saying? Whatever my mood is in. Oh yeah, brother. So, for me, like, I became a fan of his, you know, like when I lived in Okinawa, because in Okinawa back in the day, and I want to say like 83, the movies on base were 3 years away, right? So when Return of the Jedi came out, you know, it was already like Empire Strikes Back years before that. Like when it came in the theater, it was brand new. So when Rocky 3 came out in the movie theaters, it was new for me, but it was actually 3 years old. It's kind of crazy, you know, when it came out. But you know, I enjoyed the movie a lot, and I became a fan after that movie.
Wow, that's crazy. Because I remember my dad worked at the movie theater, and like we would get movies. He worked on the base, and we'd get movies like maybe a month, 2 months after they were out. So, man, you guys were even further behind, which is just wild.
Yeah, it was like 3 years because I think it was 83. It came out in 82. So I think about a year. I think it was like a year behind in Okinawa, I want to say.
Yeah. Did you guys have to pay, or could you just walk
Nah, dude, like my dad on the military base, it was free, man. You just walk in.
in?
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Yeah, you were
Yeah.
just able to walk in, and I think that year I watched that one, and then Return of the Jedi. I remember going there watching that.
Yeah.
No, not Return of the Jedi. I take that back. I apologize. It was Empire Strikes Back
Dude,
because Return of the Jedi had just hit the States, and we were watching Empire Strikes Back in a movie theater.
dude, back then there was no spoilers though, right? So or
No,
did you
you couldn't.
guys like?
No.
Oh, okay, that was cool. Like
Yeah, there was no spoilers at all, dude. I remember I seen Empire Strikes Back, and I was like, man, I gotta wait. Like I'm thinking I gotta wait like a long time. And then I remember going to, I think I was with my mom's friend's house, my mom and dad's, and I remember, like a little kid, you'd be looking at stuff like, when people, when you go back in the day, you go to their houses and they have like little VHS tapes or
yeah,
betas, and you used to record a bunch of stuff and you'd write the name of the movies. And
yeah,
I had seen Return of the Jedi. I was like, yo, you have Return of the Jedi? And I think I was like maybe 10 or something like that.
hmm
And guys like, yeah, but the copy's not good. I was like, dude, can I watch it? I just got done watching Empire Strikes Back. I want to watch the conclusion. So I watched the bootleg. And you remember back in our day, them bootlegs weren't good at all. But hey, I
nah,
got to see it, you
yep,
know. So
yep. That was the most important thing, bro. It was like the bootlegs were
yeah.
like someone had their camcorder like set up in a movie theater. You'd see people walk by. It was all
Mhm.
good though. You got to see your movie.
And dude, the camcorders ain't like handheld devices. You had to set that sucker on your back. On your shoulder, you know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it just sat there, kind of like how big radios. People used to put radios on their on their shoulders and walk around. I would hate to do that. I don't even like to
yeah,
walk around with a backpack on sometimes, bro. And these fools were walking around with some, big old radios on the shoulders.
yeah. Man, that's crazy how much technology has changed our ability to like just enjoy, whether it be regular stuff or bootleg. It's changed everything. Alfonso, let's see here. We're all talking about our top three.
Right.
Alfonso's got all the trivia, all the information. So, what do we need to know? What do you want us to know about Sylvester Stallone?
Well, Sylvester Stallone is now 77 years old. All right. I was looking this up. He was born in 1946. All right. I wanted to do the math and I typed in 1964 because 1946 just it didn't register with me. And I'm like, no, he's 64, but no, that would only make him 10 years old. No, he was born in 1946. I was watching a couple TikToks before we started here today, and they're like showing pictures of him in the 80s, and like they're like 80, 83, 85, and they're showing his age like he's like 30 or something. Wait, what? No, how was he that old back then? I'm like, well, because he's 77 now. I guess the math adds up. But whoa,
Yeah,
it just blew me away because I mean, he, always been in immaculate shape, right? Yeah, he looks a
mhm,
little plastic nowadays, but there's nothing wrong with that. But he's just it's he's been there for my life, and this is one of those guys. Like a lot of people didn't really take him too seriously for a long time because he was just this action star. But I can tell at this moment, just looking up and doing research on him, when he dies, it's going to impact me pretty hard.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm surprised because normally, like, you don't like older people making movies. He's too old to do that. He's too old to do this.
Well, look, Danny Glover
But
was too old for this stuff back when he was in his 30s, late 30s, early 40s. He was too old for
yeah,
that 10 years ago. But yeah, no, I like older people. I do. It's just that some of these action movies, the main thing is I don't want them starting in new movies there's going to be a franchise later, because it's like something happens, now we got to get a new guy and he's not the same guy, and it's I want him young, and I want him to be able to take me through the journey with them if I make it.
Ah, Alfonso just doesn't like old people. It's all good. I mean, everyone's got to have that one thing they dislike, and apparently it's
yeah.
old people for Alfonso.
I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, Secret Invasion with Samuel L. Jackson, that didn't look too good
No.
when he
No.
was just moving around. And he looked like me moving around after I ran a route.
Right? No. But you know what? He looked good in the Marvels, though. He did some action scenes, and it
He
was just like,
did. He
what?
did.
Man, you got to fix it in post.
Yeah.
You know what it is? Probably because you have to do your film obligations, but he probably didn't enjoy it. But like, I'm sure you two know this, but he's really good friends with Brie Larson. So,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it'd be like us making a movie, dude. Like, I make a movie by myself. I know it sucks, but they're paying me to do it. I got to do it. I'm gonna do the best that I can. But even though I know this movie sucks, and then you go hang out with your friends and you're making movies and get paid. Oh yeah, we're gonna have some fun, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. It definitely changes everything. So, Alfonso,
Yes, sir.
Why don't you give us your number three?
My number three. All right, I'm going to paint a picture for you. All right. You've got an estranged son. That happens. Something happens with the mom, this and that. All of a sudden, you got to get your son back. And the only way you're going to get your son back is by arm wrestling for him. All right. Because you were a truck driver who arm wrestles on the circuit, and you're one of the top guys, right? And so what they do is they need you to throw the match. So what do? They kidnap your kid. It's such an 80s trope. They're going to kidnap your kid, and you got to arm wrestle to get custody back. So I mean, it's fun. I always love. I'm sure I quoted this before in the movie where he's talking about, because he's always wearing that little trucker hat, and he's always like, sometimes when I get ready to arm wrestle, I gotta turn the cap around, and it's like starting the engine of a semi truck. You gotta get ready, and it just. So yeah, Over the Top was one of those movies. It was over the top itself. I enjoyed the heck out of it. It was it was great. It was there wasn't a lot of fighting. There was some fighting in it, but mostly everything was settled with arm wrestling. You guys remember that movie at all?
It actually yes, I do remember that movie, and it made it into my top three as well. For me, I felt like when he turned the hat around, it was like he was engaging his superpower. Like, I don't know what to compare it to. Like, now it's like his power up, it's like Goku going Super Saiyan. I felt like when he turned that hat around, that was him going Super Saiyan. And even dude, I remember when they had to put the strap on, get the strap. Like, they found so many ways to take something as boring as arm wrestling and building a story around it. And I watched it on VHS, didn't watch it in the movie theaters. Might have watched it on DVD, Blu-ray, I don't know. But I was just totally enthralled with the story, and it has so many just 80s tropes, but there was no old he wasn't trained by an old black guy how to arm wrestle in this one, was he?
If they did it right, he had to have been.
Yeah.
I don't recall, unfortunately. I wanted to, find this and watch it before the cast, but I was just like, too busy with the kid today off.
I think it isn't that Von Damme though. Von Damme does that.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. That's a Von Damme thing where, he's got the old black guy training him. Like, Stallone he's just a lone wolf. No one trains him. He's just always or there's some old white guy from his past that's like in
Chase the
Rambo.
chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, but dude, I absolutely love that movie. Like I said, when I look at it now, it was like him activating his superpower. And they found, like, I just remember there was that big guy and he had to arm wrestle him and he beat him. And even now I'm like, but how? You know? But hey, it was cool. It was definitely a good movie. Joe.
Wait, I got a good analogy for that too.
Okay.
It was him popping his claws.
Ah.
But you know what, dude? That even though that bootleg Hulk Hogan, lost, and Schwarzenegger beat him, or not? I mean, Sly beat him. There, if you watch some, there's just like this. They when they do arm wrestling competitions, and there's actually a small dude that went up against this big bodybuilder, and the big bodybuilder thought he was going to win, and this little dude just smashed him. So I want to say it's all in the wrists and the arms, maybe, because it doesn't matter what they look like. So I can see how someone like Sylvester Stallone size can beat them. But the flipping of the hat thing, what's dope about it is there's a story about Michael Jordan, and there was these rumors about this dude talking smack about Michael. So he came the next day and lit him up. And they went and asked that dude, no one remembers his name. I can't remember his name. And the dude said, I never said anything about him. So sometimes they just do things. Michael Jordan is just that thing to get him hyped up to do, to play well mentally. And I think that's part of that, Sylvester Stallone flipping that hat thing. Dude, when he flipped that hat thing, dude, I remember I used to wear hats as a kid. Dude, I used to do that all the time, dude. Wear it backwards and stuff. It was just cool. It was like a transformation before the Transformers came out.
Yeah.
Or was the Transformers out there? And I can't even remember. But I remember watching that movie at Man Theater. I remember watching it at Man Theater when it was open. But yeah, I enjoyed that movie. Like, for me at the time, like in those 80 movies, like in early 90s, dude, just the soundtrack to the movies were dope. And I remember I liked the soundtrack to the movie because they would always have those songs where you start hearing and you really feel for the character through the music. And I love the music in the movie. It was sad. His wife's dying from cancer, and the son doesn't like his dad, doesn't hang out with his dad. He's never been with him. He's a truck driver, and so the mom wants to come in, or the her mom wants to come in and take the kid, because he can't raise a kid. And then they bond over a trip because the mom that's dying said take him across country, spend some time with him, and then they grew to love each other. And it's kind of dope, dude, because like then the son gets all hopped up over the top, dad. You know what I mean? And then you can't forget, like, they have the hand, and like you start like this, and then he would go like this. And then I remember I used to do that too with my brother. I was like, yeah, you felt like it was a certain edge, and it didn't do anything, but it was dope. You know what I mean? It filled the movie, like it was pretty dope, dude. And you know, I like the movie a lot. And it was arm wrestling. I mean, it was a different type of movie back then.
Yeah. I wonder if they could make a movie about slap boxing.
Well, you got to
Hey, you
kidnap
know
the
what,
kid.
dude? I watched a pay-per-view one night. Shout out to Alex. He works with me, but he was like, watch this. It was like on because Rumble, they advertise it for free. And so like Dana White sponsors that. I can't remember the name of that show, Slap something. I can't remember the name of it. But I watched the pay-per-view and I was like, man, dude, these dudes really be slapping hard, man. And they be getting all hyped up. So I can see them, they'd be able to make a movie like that, because I think it'd be kind of cool. I can see them
Yeah.
doing that. They'd be copying movies so much. It'd be something different. I feel like in the 80s and 90s, they're making everything. Dude, you made a movie about arm wrestling. You know what I mean? They're making, let's make a movie about arm wrestling. Let's make a movie about surfing, boogie boarding, skateboarding. And now I feel like it's the same kind of stuff that they keep making over and over, and they keep recycling it. Marvel, so I mean, hey.
You're right. It because I feel like whenever, even though arm wrestling wasn't like a huge fad, but like if skateboarding was popular, then they'd make a skateboarding movie. Surfing got popular, they'd make a surfing movie. Like whatever was popular at the time, there'd be like a movie about it. Like 6 months to a year after it was popular, they would have a movie. But Joe, you're right, man. Now it's like they don't want to take a chance, so nothing's original right now.
And don't forget about BMXing. That movie Rad.
Yeah.
Whoo! Best dance
Dude, that
scene
was a dope
ever.
movie. That was a dope movie.
When they were on the bikes, popping the wheelies, just riding along, dancing on the bikes on one wheel. It was like a love scene. It was like a slow song. It was bad. I loved it. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Or wait, we forgot about rollerblading. Never mind. I digress. But this made me. You brought up a lot of good points, Joe. It's like I totally forgot about all that stuff about that movie. That was really fun. And then on top of it, Dukes, you're talking about going to the movie theater and stuff. Man, I don't think I went to the movie theater much when I was a kid. Like I'd go to drive-ins once in a while, and they generally showed like old movies. I do remember going to the movie theater once because I was like, Dad, we got to go see E.T. We got to go see E.T. And my dad's like, all right, we'll go to the movies, kid. And we get there, and he takes me to see the best little whorehouse in Texas. I'm like, Dad, really? And I'm like, all right.
I always wanted to see Best Little Whorehouse in Texas because I assumed, I was at that age where my whole thing was I just want to see boobies.
Oh yeah.
So I wanted to see that movie. Of course, I couldn't because my parents weren't going to take me to that. But I don't know if the promise was even delivered in that movie. Like
No. That would have changed me that day. I would have become a man. But speaking of which, okay, so that was Dolly Parton and Burt Reynolds. Don't forget, Sylvester Stallone had a movie with Dolly Parton where she decided that she was going to change a cabbie. She goes, I can make anybody into a country singer. And she took a cabbie, Sylvester Stallone, and she made him into a country music star. It's called, what was that? Rhinestone.
Oh,
Rhinestone. See, that's what I'm talking about, dude. They be making random stuff. Let's just make a movie about a country singer turning a cab driver into a singer. And dude can't sing. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like
yeah, his thumbs in his belt.
Everything was like brand new thoughts, dude. Let's just make something dope. You know what I mean? Let's see let's just roll the dice and see what, like, hey, we'll crack the egg and see if it comes out perfect.
wow. Yeah, Alfonso went deep into the obscurity bin for that one. So, Joe, what's your number 3?
My number three was Tango and Cash. I thought that was pretty good. It was like it had like Sylvester Stallone. It had
Kurt Russell.
why can't I think of his name? Kurt Russell, and then also the girl that was in was it her that was in Lois and Clark? I think it was her when she was young. I can't remember her name.
Terry Hatcher?
Yeah, I want to say Terry Hatcher was Kurt Russell's sister, but it was like a like a standard 80s and 90s movie. Two cops that are their best in their precincts on the east and the west. They come in to try to get a big drug bust. They get busted because they got framed. They both in jail. They both get out of jail. They both go take down the big bad dude. They become friends in the end. Sylvester Stallone goes out with Kurt Russell's sister. Yeah, it's a good movie. That's the gist of it. I mean, those type of movies, there's not much to it, dude. It's just a lot of fighting, a lot of shooting.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with a buddy cop movie. Especially
No.
when you get two big names like that, put them together. Like Kurt Russell, I'm not sure if at the time he popped out of the theater for a little bit, and all of a sudden he's back with Sylvester Stallone, and everybody's like, oh,
Mhm.
so 80s, it was totally radical.
Because I think did he do what was it? New York? What was it called?
Escape from New York.
Escape, yeah.
Yeah, did he do that before or after?
I believe so. I think
It was probably before, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, even Kurt Russell for that time was like a good actor in his sense. And that was like really like the first team up because with Arnold, like same with Von Damme and Steven Seagal, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sly Stone, like it was like a competition thing. It was like, we're not going to do a movie together. Like, I'm going to be the king of the box office. And they were going back and forth. But how cool would that have been for them to get it together sooner to make a movie? I think they would have made a lot of money, those two guys together. Instead, now they're together now. And it's kind of like the Pacquiao and Mayweather fight. Everybody wanted them to fight when they were young, dude. By the time they started fighting, they were already old. And the fight wasn't as good as it could have been if they would have done it like many years before. And I feel like, with the Expendables, even though you have Arnold in there and Sly, they're not the same cats.
No. It's funny that you bring them both up because I was thinking about it earlier for another movie I want to think of, but I got confused. I'm like, oh yeah, that was from Last Action Hero, and there's a scene in Last Action Hero where they're going through a Blockbuster video, and you see Sylvester Stallone as the Terminator. And I was like, oh, that was a really good callback right there, throwback,
Which is funny because that movie bombed. Remember that movie bombed? I remember that was like when it was like, oh, that movie bombed. It wasn't good.
Yeah, I was so disappointed when that movie bombed because I was a huge Schwarzenegger fan. There was a song from my favorite band, Anthrax, on the soundtrack. There was a AC/DC song. I didn't care nothing about AC/DC, but Anthrax was on there. And yeah, it just bombed. I was like, man, this sucks. I still watch it like 4 times in the theater, but it was a pretty bad movie.
I don't know. I like that movie 4 times though. But when it was on HBO, you know how HBO would play it like every other day, and it's like I can't tell you how many times I watched those movies. Like all these movies, just because HBO would play them, nonstop here and there. So,
well, you got to remember, like Alan used to work at a movie theater, so I think so he was able to watch that crappy movie as many times as he wanted to.
That is indeed what happened. Yeah. Dude, why was there never a Tango and Cash sequel? Because I remember that movie was popular when it came out. I mean,
Yeah, you know what? It's just one of those movies that maybe it was too much money to get a sequel back then.
Yeah.
I would assume, like they both, they draw high paychecks, and you probably had ones like, oh, I want to make more than him, and he's like, yeah, but I need to make more than him. Kurt Russell's been acting since he was a little boy. He did like a bunch of old Disney movies.
Wow.
What was he did? Yeah, he did. Oh my gosh, can't even think of it. But yeah, he's been in a lot of really old movies.
Dang. Alfonso used all his phone data to research this this episode,
Hey,
man.
did you know his son is in Monarch? The
Yeah.
Legacy
Oh,
of
really?
Monsters?
Yeah.
I did not know that was Kurt Russell's son. He was
Yeah.
also in like
Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier. I did not know that was his son.
Dang.
Yeah, I heard that they're going to be having his son play the younger version of the character, and he's
Oh, yeah,
gonna play
it
the
is,
older
yeah.
version.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah, you'll see in episode 2.
Yeah. Oh well.
or episode one. Yeah,
No, I don't
yeah.
think it's
I
in
mean, you
one.
know.
Spoilers.
Might have been. Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, he
Yeah.
plays the same character. When you see him older,
Yeah.
there's no spoiler. He's
Yeah.
just the
But it's
older
pretty cool.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's dope.
Yeah. It is because they do look so much alike that it's like it's a good way to do it.
Right.
Yeah. So Alfonso, did you get that information?
Nah,
Your Wi-Fi, not your
it
data.
was. I got my Wi-Fi. Yeah, no. He started acting like early. So
Oh, okay.
that's all I got for you.
Okay. Well, I think you got a number 2. So what's your number 2?
Oh, number 2. Who does number 2 work for? Let me see. What's a good? Let me see if I can think of a quick quote for. What's your boggle, John Spartan? Yeah. Demolition Man. Demolition Man. That movie was so friggin' awesome. I loved it so much. You've got what was Simon? Simon was the bad guy, Wesley Snipes. He was put on ice, and that's what they did with all the big bads. Rather than execute them, because they wanted to be humane about it, they would just cryo freeze them. And there's some, like, I don't know, some big guy that wants to get things started up, so he thaws them out early. They bring him out, and he starts causing some ruckus. And then what do? They bring in the cop, who they put on ice because he uses excessive force all the time. The only one that could bring Simon down, and that was Sylvester Stallone, as what did I just say his name was? John Spartan, right? And so John Spartan comes out. They bring him out of the cryo freeze, and he's like, "Well, I got to go hunt him down." Finds out how different the future is. People no longer high five or hug or touch each other. There was a franchise wars for the for all the restaurants in the world, and Taco Bell won, so all restaurants were Taco Bell. There's a lot of really cool things. They didn't have guns. Anytime you use any profanity, you would get a violation that you would have to pay. They didn't have toilet paper. They had 3 seashells. What do you guys know about 3 seashells?
Not
I can
much.
tell you that those seashells will not help you, big boy.
Yeah, somewhere there's like someone needs to explain the seashells. For me, that's actually my number 2 as well.
Nice.
Not because I don't remember much about Sylvester Stallone movies, but it's one of the few movies that I felt like was like really original and creative, and he had like a cool villain. Yeah, Wesley Snipes is always good at playing the crazy dude, but I felt like normally the villains weren't on the same level with him physically, and I felt like in this movie, like both intellectually and also physically, they were on the same level, which was just awesome. Also, all the different ideas they came up with of what the future would look like, a lot of jokes, but I thought it was pretty cool the way that they did that, and the whole cryogenic freezing thing, which I wouldn't have remembered if Alfonso hadn't said that, but it's just really cool that I could see that happening. It actually makes a lot more sense. Like, if you cryogenically freeze someone, then it's like you're going to cut your costs significantly as far as, compared to life in prison. But that's like, but eventually all the machines break. Like, there's like a war or something, and all the machines break, and then you have all the criminals running around and us. We don't want that. So yeah, definitely love the movie. I also put that at number 2.
Yeah, I think they would bring like prisoners out like every 20, 30 years or something, and they would plead their case, and they'd see if they set them up for early release. So they still were able to plead their case and try to get early release or get back in the public. But the truth of the matter is, for them, it's like from one day to another. So it's like they don't have any time to reflect or learn anything from their mistakes. It's like taking a nap. Next thing you know, they're waking up and like, oh hey, yeah, no, I'm fine. Really, I'm done. But yeah, that was cool the way Stallone got to use the because he needed some toilet paper. He couldn't figure out how to use the 3 seashells. Nobody explained it to him, so he just kept cussing, getting the violations, and he just, oh hey, now I got something to wipe my butt with.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was dope too, because again, that's another team up. Like Sylvester Stallone was doing kind of like team ups low key, but I don't know why he didn't do more back then.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you remember, like that year before those, a couple years before, he came out with New Jack City,
No.
Passenger 57, White Man Can't Jump, and then he did Demolition Man. So Wesley Snipes at the time was putting out some good movies, some good content. And when those two got together, you're like, whoa, Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes are together. What? And it was dope. They even had Sandra Bullock in it. Remember?
Yeah.
And then what?
Yeah.
Was it Dennis Leary? I think it was Dennis
No.
Leary.
It was
Joe Pesci?
No, you sure it wasn't Dennis Leary, the comedian?
No,
it was another comedian.
He would
It was
smoke
another
a
comedian.
cigarette. Oh, maybe it wasn't Dennis. No, it's not.
Oh,
Dennis
yeah.
Leary. Dennis Leary, right?
I think so. I think he would. Yeah, I thought you were talking about the other cop. That was Rob Schneider.
No, you
Yeah.
remember his whole stint was he'd smoke a cigarette and he'd
Yeah.
go off on a tangent before
Right.
Vince Vaughn started doing that. Because Vince Vaughn's will be doing that now. But he would go off like a little tangent where he's talking about stuff and it was kind of funny. But stuff like that. And it was a good movie, bro. Like Taco Bell in there, bro. See, that's probably why you need 3 seashells because Taco Bell, they be doing some damage on your stomach and your buttocks, after you eat it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're probably gonna need more than 3 seashells, even in the future for that.
You are right. It was Dennis Leary. There's also Benjamin Bratt. I remember there's like a meme going around where somebody like draws like one of those like airplane like instruction lists on what to do with the 3 seashells.
Mhm.
Apparently, you're supposed to take 2 of the seashells, clamp it, pull everything out, and then you take the 3rd one and you scrape off the sides. That's
Yeah, I would have used some
no.
leaves. But because Dennis Leary was hot. Remember, he was on MTV.
Oh,
and he
yeah.
would have those little skits where commercial breaks and he would just start talking.
You know what we need to do? We need to get the bombs, right? Where he's always had a cigarette and he's like,
Yeah, he was always smoking that cigarette.
Yeah. I thought Dennis Leary was dope back in the day.
He was.
in that song.
Yeah, the one we can't.
Mention the
It was
title.
a good song, though. It was a good song. Trust me. What was I gonna? Okay, got a couple of questions for you guys because I think I know the answer. Wesley Snipes was the Demolition Man, right?
No.
No.
Stallone was. They called him Demolition Man because he would take everybody out and he would most likely destroy a lot of the city too. So he was just one of those cops.
Okay,
Like
well,
Chris
that's
Tucker. You blew up half the city block. There's still half left.
Well, that is my first wrong answer. Let's see here. I'm not going to ask another question because I'm wrong.
Oh, come on.
I do have
shoot.
a question, Joe. What comes in at your number 2?
Mine is Rambo. I didn't strike first blood. They did. Remember that? I remember watching that. Dang, I remember my mom was a huge Sylvester Stallone fan. Rest in peace. But I remember we went to the movie theaters and my mom was very loud. She loved when he was talking smack, dude. And she, your moms would get so loud at the time. Like you're like, mom. Now it's like no one cares now. But back then, you remember the theater had to be real quiet. But I remember she was a huge fan of Rambo. I thought Rambo was dope. And like this is why I think I like Rambo as a kid. And you wouldn't know till later how much more it made sense. But like he's walking down, he's like an ex-vet, and he's walking down the street and the cop is messing with him. And you're like, hey, that sounds familiar, even though he's white and the cop is white, but it sounds familiar. And back then they probably, like people that didn't serve didn't like people that serve. You know what I mean? Because they viewed him a different way in that time period. But he kept poking the bear. And the guy was just trying to go see his friend who had died because he didn't know he had died when he went to go visit him. He had already passed away. And next thing you know, the cops chasing him. And then I can't remember if he kills him or not. But then the whole police department's going after him. And he's locked up in this cave, I remember. And then like his platoon dude came in and he was like, bro. And he's like this, we sent men. He goes, what did he say? He said Sarge or something like that.
Yeah.
He's all, you better get a body bag. I remember that when he said that, I was like, oh, a body bag. But that, because I think I was like, like he had 2 franchises going. I thought that was the start of the franchise. It was like Rambo and Rocky. And I thought the first, the next 3 or 4 like were okay, but nothing beats the original one. Like with most movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brian Dennehy played that cop, man. And he did such a good job at that.
Yeah, he did. Good
He's
actor.
just like a big guy, so imposing, and he's like,
Yeah.
he wasn't putting up with that. And then, they went and took him in. They took him in for what was it, aggravated assault or something. And then they stripped him down and then they held him off.
Yeah.
And then the one guy's like punching him. Man, they messed with him too much. And he finally got out, sold himself a motorcycle, went into the hills, and he was out there in the woods, and it's like now you got the manhunt, right? You got all these cops coming in. He started slicing up little daggers and stuff, and
Yeah.
put them in the ground, and he'd set all these traps, and then, it was like Home Alone, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that was a fun movie. It's like,
See, that's why it was dope, because you're in the Midwest. It seemed like, I think it was the Midwest,
yeah,
and you're going, and he's like what was he?
Green Beret or something.
A Green Beret. Yeah, it was a Green Beret, and he's going to the woods. Those dudes are jacked. But as a kid, you didn't know that.
Right.
I think you're watching it, and you're like this. You're like, oh man, what's he gonna do? And then he starts like hiding his camouflage, and you're like, dude, this guy's dope, dude. How you not like that movie? As a kid, growing up, it'd be. I don't see movies like that. Why don't you remake Rambo?
Yeah.
You remake other movies. Can you remake a Rambo? Remake a Predator. I mean, the last Predator movie The Prey, that was good because it took it back to, the woods and the forest and stuff. Nothing beats that, dude. Game time in the woods, bro. Like, you have the nature, you have trees, all this stuff to hide you, and that's dope.
Dude, after Rambo, how bad did you guys want that knife? That had the compass on the end. You open it up.
Oh, yeah, it was cool.
The matches, everything inside that you need. Oh, man. I had to give me one of those.
Me too.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about the matches for years. I just saw that compass on the end. That was all I needed, dude.
Yeah, a little compass. It was like, damn well we ain't gonna be able to find our way out anywhere. But it was just cool to have. You know what I mean? Knife, and you'd move it around. It's like this. Like, yeah, Rambo.
We'll go north. I don't know what's north, but I'm gonna go that way.
Yeah, dude. I remember I even watched the Rambo cartoon. Remember they had the Rambo cartoon?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Rambo and the Force of Freedom.
Then how many times did you guys take that red bandana and put it on your forehead, tie it up, and you just like your Rambo?
Yeah.
Yeah, young black man in the hood can't be putting on a red
Oh,
bandana. So.
well, I guess it depends on which hood you're in.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, I'm guessing where I grew up, I didn't really put on too many bandanas either. So that makes a lot of, behind the safety of your own door. Oh man, and then there's bow and arrows.
Yes.
He had that compound bow, dude. I hadn't seen one of those since Dukes of Hazzard.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, everything about that movie, as you guys describe it, because of course I don't remember it, but as you guys are reminding me about everything that was cool about that movie, I'm like, yeah, that movie. That's like after this episode, I'm probably gonna go watch First Blood again because it was just so cool. Like when he went into the forest. You're like, oh man, it's about to get real.
Yeah, dude. Because you were like, those type of movies did very well credit to Brian Dennehy, such a good actor, dude.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, man, this guy's a punk, dude.
Yep.
He's such a punk, and you kind of want him to get his ass kicked. So like you start to cheer for Rambo, and movies don't do that anymore. Where you cheer for the hero because the villain, the actor is so good that you start to hate this dude. And he was a good person, but an actor's good when you're like, man, I can't stand this dude. And that's how like this guy's really killing it as in the part that he's doing.
Yeah.
It's like professional wrestling. You've got those hills that you just love to hate. And if you have the right actor for the right part, you just love to hate him. That makes the movie so much more enjoyable when they get their just dessert.
Unfortunately, all hills now turn face, but at least in the movie, we didn't have to see that. So, Alfonso, what is your numero uno? Wait, you know what? Let's talk honorable mention.
Ooh, I got a good one.
What do you got?
Okay, honorable mention. I mean, right now we're focusing on movies, but recently Sly Stallone came out with a TV show. All right. I heard about it. I was interested in it. And then next thing you know, I hear Joe talking about it. It's like, Joe's like, you got to watch this. You got to watch this. And I'm like, what's it called? He's like, it's called toe sucking. I'm like, toe sucking? That's a show? No, Tulsa King. And I'm like, oh, Tulsa, like Tulsa go home. Gotcha. So, oh man, that show was good. That show was really good. Actually, Joe, you know a lot about it. You want to talk about that one?
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I think we did an episode about that, if I'm not mistaken, right? Oh, we didn't. We never did one. I
No,
thought we did. I'm
nope.
surprised we never did one.
Thought we talked.
Pretty much Sylvester Stallone is like, like it's the kind of like mob type of show, and the leader's son made a mistake and burned someone, so he took the fall for him, and so he goes to jail, and he's in the jail for a long time. So he comes out, and he's expecting something. So he walks up to him like, "Yo, like what do I get for keeping my mouth shut? What am I gonna get?" And the son, who's supposed to be the guy that's gonna take over for his dad, pretty much says, "You don't get anything." And he's just like, "Bro, I did all this." But they go like this: "Here, check this out. Go to Tulsa and you can do your thing there, and we won't say anything." And he's like, "Well, what do you mean? Tulsa's all yours. We're going to give that to you. You can do whatever you want over there." And so he was just like, "Whatever, dude." So he ends up going to Tulsa, and there's nothing there. But the entrepreneur that this dude is, he goes and he walks into this weed shop, and he starts asking all this stuff like, "Yo, who's your supplier? Who does this? Do you pay anybody to protect them?" And the guy's just like, and it's some nerdy dude. He's like, "Nah, dude, like, I don't need any protection." He goes, "Protection from the cops and somebody else." He's like, "No, I don't." So he beats him up, kind of. I think he punches him, and then he's all, I take this cut." But it ends up being cool because he starts to, and then he ends up getting a limo driver. Um, and then the guy in the weed shop, they all get together and they start to form their own stuff where they sell weed and get money and stuff like that. It's pretty dope, dude. It's pretty dope. It's a good show. Then he ends up sleeping with the FBI agent. And I don't want to spoil the whole show because you guys are, if you listen to this, you have to go watch the show because I don't want to spoil it, but it's so good. Even at the end where you leave it like this, I gotta wait. I'm just glad that they picked it up for a second season, but it's actually it's really good, dude.
Yeah, it's your classic mob guy, and
Mhm.
sent to Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was ridiculous. It's like but he got there and he did what he did and he made things work. And next thing you know, he's got he's running the show. He's sending his cut to New York the way
Mhm.
he's supposed to, right? And they're like, "What? How's he getting us this money?"
Yeah.
And oh man, the way he picked up, the guy was his driver, right? And he like brought that kid up. He brought him along with him, and he give him like a stack of money. He's like, "Go get a car. Go get a car. I want this,
Mhm.
this, and this." And the guy goes to the dealership, and he's a young black guy, and the dealership laughed him out. And like, "No, where'd you get this cash? There's no way. Get out of here." And they treat him like crap. So he comes back the next day in his little hoopty, and Stallone's like, "Where's the car I told you to get?" "Man, they wouldn't sell me no car." So they went down, and he tore him a new one, man. Well, it was great.
Yeah, you know why I think I liked it so much? It's like anime. You start from nothing,
Right.
and then you meet certain people, and then you have this big old group, and you start to do some stuff. Oh yeah, and the bartender too. Like he hooks up with the bartender.
Right.
Like the show is just awesome. Like it's really good.
Yeah, I didn't know there was going to be a second season, but I'm pretty excited about that. Any chance to watch more toe sucking? I'm definitely down for it. So, wait, what? Double entendre. Yeah, I really. The thing about Tulsa King was I figured it was gonna not be that good, but it's like I'm paying for Paramount Plus and I have to watch more than Star Trek, so I might as well check out this show. And after the first episode, I was like, dude, like I feel like Sylvester Stallone has always been a good actor
Yeah.
because he was nominated for an Oscar for Rocky.
Yeah.
But people, because he went into action and because of his, I'll say his accent or his dialect or his inflection, people always associated him with being somewhat dim-witted. But the dude's a phenomenal actor and a
Yeah.
crazy businessman if you think about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, because they renewed it for a second season after the third episode aired.
Oh
And dude, by the third episode, you was in anyways.
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. And I feel like a lot of stuff on Paramount Plus struggles. So if that got
Yeah.
a second season, because yeah, don't get invested on any show on Paramount Plus unless it's a Star Trek show, because there will be no second season. So yeah. So let's see here. We need to jump into our number one. Alfonso, what do you got?
Number one, Rocky. Rocky. I'm gonna go with Rocky number one. I mean, all four. I don't count the fifth one, but all four Rockies were amazing. But I'm gonna go with the original, the classic. You know, you got the man who's like from nothing. You know, he's got nothing. He's just like he's a street thug. He collects money for people. He does some boxing on the side, and you know they need somebody to. Apollo Creed needs to defend his title, and they're trying to like build up his public image too. So like we're gonna give somebody a chance, a nobody, right? So you know we'll just find somebody around random and like, hey, Rocky Balboa, that sounds like a good name. Let's bring him up. So you know the thing was he just had so much heart. He was training. You know he caught the chicken like we're talking about earlier. he had his cousin Paulie, or not cousin, his friend Paulie. He had what was his trainer's name? Mick. You know, old man Mick, he's a gruff voice, like, you're not hungry, Rock. You know, he put him through some old school training, you know, got him going. The thing about Rocky was he could take a hit. He could take a hit like none other. He fell in love with Adrian, who was, I guess, related to Paulie. And it's funny because one of my favorite scenes, they're there in his apartment, and you know, they're on their first date, and he's like, oh, don't worry, I'll call Paulie and let him know that you're going to stay over a little longer. And he goes over to the window, opens the window. He's like yelling out the window. He's like, hey, Paulie, Adrian's going to stay over for a little bit. Oh, man, I love that so much. But yeah, that movie, you know, it showed his acting skills so well because, you know, it's like, yeah, he was this thug. He was tough. He was big and muscular. But you know, it's like some of the scenes that he had with Adrian, it's like the emotion. And when he you know won, or even when he, because you know, spoiler alert, he didn't actually win this fight, but he went the distance with Apollo Creed, you know, the heavyweight champ of the world, you know, somebody with tons of experience, and he went, you know, round for round with him. You know, he didn't go down, he didn't get knocked out. You know, it was a decision, and you know, when you come from that's a win, you know, and they showed that. So, I mean, what are your guys' memories of Rocky?
Drew, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, well, we might as well go into my top one. It's Rocky 3. So for me, when I watched Rocky 3 in Okinawa, I came back and then, you know, I started watching Rocky 1 and 2. And after watching Rocky 3, for me, 1 was okay, 2 was better than 1, but 3 ultimately was the best one out of the first 3 for me.
Right.
So I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. Apollo Creed was dope, you know, but nothing beats Rocky 3 for me. So I mean, I enjoyed, you know, for the nostalgia of the Rocky series, watching 1 and 2. I thought that was pretty cool, but you know, for me, it's always 3.
Right.
So apparently, I didn't see Rocky 1. I don't think. Yeah, I don't think so, because as you guys are describing Rocky 1, or you're describing it, Alfonso, I'm like, no, I don't remember any of that. Did he chase the chicken in 1 or in 2?
I'm pretty sure he chased a chicken in every
I
single
think it
one.
was, yeah, but I want to say it started in 1.
Right.
Okay.
That was, and then you know he did that famous run in Philadelphia where he, you know, he's running and everybody's running with him. You know, he's running up the stairs, and finally at the end he's like, yeah, you know, because he did it. You know, I did it. But
was that in 1 or 2?
that was in 1.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you see, I mean, I kind of had the same issue. Like when I was young, it's like anytime I try to talk about it, I remember it, it was like 1 and 2 blurred together so well. Because I remember I got the collection of VHS finally, and so I'm like, I'm gonna go back and watch it myself again. And then 1, you know, he fought Apollo. He there was a tie, and then in 2 he fought Apollo and won. Right, he won the championship, and then in 3 Mick died, so Apollo trained him to fight Clubber Lang, and he's like, he's like, come over here, I'll show you what a real man is. I was sorry, I got my Mr. G impression almost got lost with the Eddie Murphy one where he's like, look at my finding them jeans, boy. But
well, there you go.
So 3 was really good. That you know, that holds a lot of good memories for me because Mr. T, B.A. Baracus, you know, he was also, you know, he started doing WWE. You know, oh, you also had not Clubber Lang, you had Thunder Lips in Rocky 3. There was an exhibition bout with Rocky against Thunderlips, who was none other than Hulk Hogan, right? It was wrestling versus boxing. You know, Rocky thinks he's going to go in there and just throw a few jabs, do some little footwork. And next thing you know, he's going to be picked up and thrown around by Hulk Hogan. And he's like, hey, I thought this was just an exhibition for charity. And so, like, he rips off his gloves and he's just beating the crap out of him. And then finally they're like, oh, he's like, good job, good job. And I guess that's how Mr. T and Hulk Hogan got mixed up and started going with that in the WrestleMania 1 or 2.
Got to be 2.
Yeah, I think it was 2.
Yeah. So the thing about the Rocky movies is I feel like they got cartoonish at 3. Like the first 1 and 2, they were serious movies, but then 3 got cartoonish, and then 4 he kind of became that superhero,
right?
And then 5 they tried to get back to being more serious and
failed.
Apparently, no one likes 5.
Yeah, 4 was amazing though. I mean, yeah, they made him a superhero, right? They made it to where he was almost like Apollo Creed, where he was ducking all the big names and just trying to chalk up the wins. And next thing you know, Apollo's like, well, I'm gonna go to fight this Russian guy in an exhibition match, and Ivan Drago comes in and he just kills Apollo. So of course Rocky's got to avenge him. So he goes to Russia. He has this training montage where he's lifting everything to the snow, running through the snow. And then, they're fighting. Everybody's like, they're all chanting Drago, Drago. And then they get to see Rocky's heart. And the next thing you know, even the Russian people are, chanting Rocky, Rocky. And man, it was cool the dynamic of the way he turned the crowd on that.
Bro, let's rewind a bit, bro. How are you going to say Rocky 3 is cartoony? Do you even remember the movie?
As a matter of fact, I do.
Shots fired.
Bro, his trainer dies. And you're like, dude, how's he going to train, bro? And then I remember this little kid, dude. He's like, hey, man, I pity the fool. I pity the fool. It's like a little white kid running around. I pity the fool. And I remember he used to remember in the neighborhood, they had those little random containers. I think they were generators, I guess. Like in the middle of I used to live on base. They'd be, I pity the fool, man. He hit the thing. I'm like, bro, you're not Clubber Lane, bro. We just some little kid, man. But and and then he gets trained by Apollo and his trainer, bro. Like, dude, it's dope, dude. And he's all, there's no tomorrow, Rocky. There's no tomorrow. How's that cartoony, bro?
Right.
Like, he ain't doing it, bro. He's running on the beach. He can't do it. He gives up. And Apollo gives that dope speech. There is no tomorrow. And he's looking at himself in the mirror, bro. That's not cartoony, bro. That's motivation, bro. That's Eye of the Tiger, little homie. Like, that is not cartoony, bro. You're crazy. You're crazy.
Wow.
I think Dukes is like, but the fact that Rocky, the white guy, beat him in a race, that's
I felt like I said, that's when he became a superhero, so to speak. Like, it felt like his abilities, like, they just became very, like, superhero-y, like invincible, so to speak. Where he always finds a way to, like, overcome. And yeah, I can say it was emotional when Mick died, but I'll give you that. But
dude, he got trained, bro. He got trained to be that good. Apollo trained him to be better than himself. He trained him. He didn't just become a superhero.
I didn't interrupt you, so I'm gonna keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the Mr. T character, the Clubber Lang character, he was just a big goofy, like, I felt like he was a character in like a video game. Like, he was the final boss, so to speak. He just felt like he wasn't a real person. Like, he was like, take Muhammad Ali, make him really mean, and then crank him up to a 10. I felt like that's what they did. He was over the top, very cartoony. Was the movie enjoyable? Yeah. But I felt like it was a little bit too unrealistic. Go ahead.
For that time, a very aggressive boxer, for someone that's not, it was good for that time period. I mean, you can watch it now and say that. But I think back then it fit the movie really well. Because being aggressive like that put fear in Rocky, and that's something that he's never ever felt before. So if you look at 1 and 2, he had the attitude of, I have nothing to lose in the first 2 movies. Now Rocky 3, he loses his manager, so that's loss. and then he gets his butt kicked. That's another loss. And so he's dealing with fear and emotion that he used to have much stronger in Eye of the Tiger, which, like the name of the song, which Apollo says, when you beat me, you had that look. You don't have that look no more. And we need to get that look back. And so that's why he took him back to the old training grounds where he trained at, because he's you need to remember what it's like to start from the beginning. Then he comes in and kicks that ass.
I can see your point that for its time period, all the characters tended to be more one dimensional. Like, hey, I'm an angry black guy. I'm muscular. But I understand what you're saying. For its time period, it fit the time period. It was a great villain for its time period. But as I look back, it's like that turned into Drago, the super Russian, who the only difference between Drago and Clubber Lang was he was a big white guy who couldn't speak English very well compared to a big black guy who talks smack.
If he dies, he dies.
Yeah. I didn't, as a kid, I thought that was okay movie, but what I didn't like is Apollo going out like that.
Oh,
Because
me
like,
too.
even though Apollo trained Rocky, I didn't want him to die like that. I thought that was kind of dumb. Especially at the end of Rocky 3 where they says, dang, dang, and then they do a little thing and they both fight Southpaw, and then they go in and knock each other out.
Mhm.
That was dope because, even though he trained Sylvester Stallone to be better, I always thought they were like evenly matched.
Mhm.
And Apollo was just dope, dude. And then like for him to like throw in the towel, throw in the towel, and they wouldn't throw in the towel, bro. I'm sorry, bro. You can yell at me later, Dukes. I'm gonna throw in the towel, bro. You can get mad at me all you want, bro. You can get mad at me when we go eat some dinner, bro. You can tell me, hey, Joe, you remember that time you threw in that towel? Yeah, right, I did, buddy. How was that steak?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. So both of you guys are number one. You pick Rocky movies.
Yeah.
So I went because I don't remember any of the Rocky movies, and I think like one of the more recent Sylvester Stallone movies that I thoroughly enjoyed and was surprised by was Samaritan.
Oh yeah.
So I'm putting Samaritan at my number one. It was predictable,
Mm.
but it was fun,
Yeah.
and I said cartoony for Rocky 3 and 4, but this movie was also very cartoony. But I thought the story, as far as he's like this retired hero and he meets this kid, it's just like it's like check all the boxes with a generic story, but it works really well.
Mhm.
And the special effects were good because it was an Amazon movie during the pandemic,
Yeah.
during quarantine. It was just a good movie all around, and I think Joe told me they're making a sequel.
Oh, nice.
Joe's being quiet. He's like, I never told you that.
I'm like, is there a sequel? Did I say that? I'll be saying a lot of stuff, bro. I hope it gets a sequel. It's pretty good, dude. Like spoiler alert. I think we did a pod on that one. I want to
We
say.
did.
We did.
But yeah, dude, like you find out, like, yeah, it's predictable, but you knew it was coming. But at the same time, when they did it, it was so like, oh, it wasn't like this, man, these movies are so predictable, dude.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that, even though it ended up being like he's the brother that actually lived, the villain, and now he's perplexed with trying to be the hero that his brother once was. It's dope, dude. Sylvester Stallone does a good little the cliches and makes them pretty good. It's like you've seen it before, but you're like, oh, you do pretty good with that, except for Expendable 4. I didn't enjoy that one.
He was hardly in it, so that makes sense.
Yeah, he was in that movie for like 10 minutes. He knew what it was about.
Yeah, I remember reading somewhere like something like that. I can't remember why he did it, but it just shows like if he's not in it, bro, ain't no one trying to watch Expendable 4s, bro. Let's be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Samaritan. That is my number one, and I really enjoyed it. I can't wait for the sequel. Anyone who didn't listen to the first time we did the Samaritan broadcast, I'm telling you, you need to check it out and watch the Samaritan because it's an awesome show or movie. You can find it on Amazon. Y'all paying for Prime anyway, so go ahead and watch the movie.
It is in works of the sequel. I was like,
Awesome. So yeah,
Well,
man, I have to say I'm not the biggest. I'm a bigger fan of Sylvester Stallone now than I was when he was in his heyday, but he's definitely an actor that has not reinvented himself, but stayed relevant when a lot of his contemporaries fell off. So he's pretty awesome for that.
yeah. I think that
you
the
know
whole
what?
idea.
Let's revisit that. Revisit that. Do you like him better now than back in the day?
No, I liked him better back in the day, but I do like the fact that he was able to bring up his relevance again with the Expendables. I mean, that was such a great idea for a comeback.
Mhm.
What about you?
Yeah, because Tulsa King, like,
Oh,
I can see Alan's point. I really like Tulsa King,
yeah.
and I think he's so good, and he's good with the Samaritan.
All right.
Like I'd be okay if they make a Samaritan. When they do make it, I'll be okay. I'll watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, dude?
Well,
I mean, I do like. I mean, I have a top three. I do enjoy it for that
right.
time,
Right.
but the Tulsa King's just so good. So I'm
Well,
like,
It
I
is,
don't
man.
know.
here's the
I
thing.
don't
Those
know, man.
those are good movies. The Tulsa King is it's an amazing show. It's up there with Breaking Bad in my opinion. You've got Samaritan, which is a great movie. They with the budget they had, they did really well. But Rocky and Rambo are iconic. You know what I mean? Tulsa King's not iconic. These two movies, Rocky and Rambo alone, they're just like the foundation of action movies.
You're 100% correct, but I feel like the landscape was a lot different back then.
Oh yeah.
It's like
Mhm.
sometimes we look at our kids and our kids have so many different things that they can use to consume media. There's like a million different channels, there's YouTube, there's TikTok. So it was a lot easier to be iconic and completely take over the public consciousness when all you had was three channels because I was poor, I didn't have cable. All you had was three channels and a movie that came out every week. And you guys remember there were no like big like movie plexes. It was
Nope.
like maybe you had like five different movies playing at once. So
Right.
it wasn't the same as it is now. But I agree. Iconic, absolutely. Like huge. And there's no comparison as far as the success and the impact on overall just media. But I feel like now there's just a lot more competition for the public's attention.
True. Yeah. All I gotta say is
Yeah,
back
I
in
mean,
my day. Go
I
ahead,
could, Michael Jordan back in the day is dope. Michael Jordan and the Washington Wizards, I didn't care for,
Jay.
you know? So Sylvester Stallone, I liked him back in the day, and now I'm liking him even more. So, you know, and they're both iconic.
Excellent point. And this concludes this episode of the Nerd World Order broadcast. So until next time, ladies, gentlemen, and knights of the Nerd World Order, I am NWO.
We are NWO.
Nerds redefined. Booyah!